In one of my Tweel biscuit videos, I used a Bavarois or Bavarian cream dessert to showcase some plating ideas. Since this video was published, I've been asked so many times, what is a Bavarois and how do you make it? So that's what this video is all about. A Bavarois is a simple cold set dessert made with an anglaise base. It can be infused with many different flavours and colours, making it so versatile. Today we're making a chocolate Bavarois. Let's prepare this silicone mould. I found the best way to ensure the Bavarois won't stick is to grease the mould with an oil-based spray, mainly because it's easy to apply, and then sift over some icing sugar. This creates a barrier and the dessert should just pop out once it's set. To make the Bavarois, you need an anglaise base, then lighten it with whipped cream and stabilise it with gelatine. So the ingredients we need for our Bavarois today are some chocolate, milk, cream, eggs, caster sugar and gelatine. The first thing we need to do is bloom the gelatine. You can't just use it as a powder, you need to hydrate it with a little water first. I'll just leave it to the side until we're ready to add it in. Next we need to mix the caster sugar and egg yolks together until it's light and creamy. It's best to use a finer sugar here because it dissolves more easily. If you haven't got a use for the egg whites straight away, you can freeze them. They work just as well once they're defrosted as they do fresh. As always, the recipe for this is in my free newsletter, so make sure you're subscribed. There's a link in the description if you haven't already signed up. Since we're making a chocolate Bavarois, I'm going to chop up some chocolate into smaller pieces. This allows it to melt more easily than using big chunks. Put the chocolate and milk into a saucepan and gently bring it to the boil to heat through and melt the chocolate. This is where you can experiment and use different ingredients to infuse flavour. For example, in the vanilla bean Bavarois I made, I didn't add chocolate. Instead, I simply scraped a vanilla bean into the milk. Some other flavours you could add are spices, citrus zest, or even colourings to add different subtle flavours and colours to your Bavarois. When it's just starting to boil, turn off the heat. We now need to slowly add the milk to the egg mixture, whisking it well. If you add it too quickly or all at once, you could risk cooking the egg, which we don't want to do. So just go slowly to start with and add a little at a time. This might seem like a tricky recipe, but if you follow these steps, you'll find it's actually very achievable. Then we need to add it back into a clean saucepan and gently heat it through to thicken the anglaise. Stir it constantly and make sure your heat is quite low. If it boils, it'll split. This smells so delicious, it reminds me of a hot chocolate. When the custard is thick enough to coat the back of a spoon, it's ready. I'm going to transfer it into a large bowl to help it cool down more quickly. We also need to add the gelatine now, while the mixture still has enough warmth to melt it. Give it a good stir to disperse it through the anglaise. I'm going to whip the cream to soft peaks so it's ready when we need to fold them together. We need to wait until the chocolate mixture has cooled to room temperature. If it's too warm, the cream will melt. If you leave it too long, the gelatine in it will start setting. I check if it's ready using my finger. If it doesn't feel hot or cold, we're good to go. Keep stirring until it's fully combined and not streaky. A Bavarois is always lightened with cream and stabilised with gelatine. This is similar to a mousse, but the difference is that a mousse can be lightened with anything like a meringue and it doesn't need to be set with gelatine. Now we can spoon, pour or pipe the mixture into the prepared mould. Then leave it to set for at least a couple of hours or overnight in the fridge. While that's setting, let's think about how we're going to present this dessert. We need a sauce and a garnish, preferably a crunchy one to contrast with the creamy Bavarois texture. For the sauce, I'm going to make a mixed berry coulis. All you need is some berries, fresh or frozen, and some icing sugar. The icing sugar thickens the coulis a little, and the moisture in the berries is usually enough, though if it's looking a bit dry you can add a splash of water. Let it slowly simmer. My berries are frozen, so they're taking a bit longer to heat through. I love the versatility of a coulis. You can make so many different flavours and colours, and they definitely elevate any dessert. When it's all soft, it's time to strain it. These solid bits in the sieve make a great addition to a smoothie or muffins, so don't let them go to waste. Let's put our coulis into a squeezy bottle ready to use. Don't you love that vibrant red colour? For the crunchy garnish, I think a chocolate decoration will be perfect. I'm thinking a long curved triangular shape will work well. So how do we go about making it? First I need to melt some chocolate. You can use a double boiler or microwave to do this. Then I'm going to spread the chocolate onto a piece of acetate. You can use baking paper if you don't have acetate. You'll just end up with a more matte looking finish, and it's a bit more fiddly to work with. Then I'm going to cut the shape I want. You need to wait until the chocolate is set enough to cut through so that it doesn't rejoin, but you still have to work quickly so that it doesn't set before you're able to shape it. Though if this does happen, just pop it into the microwave on the acetate for a few seconds and it'll soften enough to make it pliable again. To keep my cuts clean, I'm wiping my knife in between to get rid of the excess chocolate. I'm going to roll my chocolate around a rolling pin to create the circular shape I'm thinking of. Then I'm going to pop it into the fridge to firm up quickly. Here it is, all set. Carefully pull away the acetate. Remember to make more than you need when working with chocolate so that you have a backup if some break. You can see here the chocolate must have rejoined just enough for this to stick together. A little gentle help with a knife should free it. Don't they look great? Now comes the fun part, plating time. Here's our coulis and garnishes. I've got a light coloured plate for our darker dessert and sauce today. And here's our set chocolate bavarois. I'm going to pipe a spiral sort of design onto the plate with the coulis. Don't be nervous doing this, just go for it. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become. To demould the bavarois, make sure it's loose around the top edge and then pop it out. This is the one advantage to using a silicone mould. In saying that though, you don't have to use a silicone mould. Plastic dariole or other shaped metal moulds work perfectly fine too. I'm going to carefully stick the chocolate decoration into the dessert to create some height, and then top it with a few freeze-dried raspberries for extra colour. I've also got a fresh mint tip to finish it off. What do you think? Let's plate this up a couple of different ways and see what other looks we can come up with. Plating is an art, and it's always fun to try new things and see what creations evolve. The best way to learn is by trial and error and from experimenting with different ideas. Oh, I like that, with the chocolate sitting on top rather than pushed into the dessert. The strawberry is helping to keep it weighed down and sturdy. For this idea, I'm going to keep it super simple and try using 2 pieces of chocolate. The one will help hold the other one up and create some height. I quite like that too. If you're interested in some more great things you can do with chocolate, check out this video here. There are so many simple things you can make that will elevate even the simplest dessert. See you over there.